Everybody, it's Elon from Inside Fighting, and we're back. And this time, this episode has a special guest, a good friend of mine who I'm really glad to reconnect with. This is the nice thing about martial arts. I met this guy through martial arts, and now we're reconnecting because of martial arts. And he's one of the best martial artists I've ever actually trained with in person. I'm going to bring him in, then I'm going to make him disappear. Then I'm going to bring him in, then I'm going to make him disappear. All right, everyone. This is this is Matthew Gelfand, an amazing Shuai Jiao. I hope I said it properly because I've never been able to pronounce it.
It's close enough.
All right,
Right.
we're gonna do a quick cut to my awkward intro.
Pow pow, inside fighting, yeah, dangerous martial arts. Pow pow, ooh ah.
All right, Matt, here we are.
What's going on, man?
It's been a long time, my man.
No, it really has. I'm glad to be on and glad to talk it through with you.
Well, I wanted to do an episode on Shuai Jiao for a very long time, and I couldn't do it without bringing you on, is what I realized. Because even when you started talking about the differences of the systems, I was like, man, there is so much to educate people on here. I just have to show some videos of you beating people up quickly. Is that okay?
Yeah, by all means, man. You got it.
Okay, here we go. Just so people know that you're not just some random YouTube guy like myself. There you were launching someone. Is this next video is this you here doing like Sanda style stuff?
Oh yeah. My second full contact fight.
Oh snap. And I love this because you really I don't want to ruin it, but I think we should watch it. So this is interesting because you're not just a Shuai Jiao guy. You also obviously competed in full contact. You've competed in all types of grappling tournaments. Didn't you compete in judo at one point? Or am I mistaken?
Yeah. No, competing in judo for sure. Judo, sambo, some grappling tournaments. Yeah, been a couple of different places.
Been around the circuit. So anyone who's looking to learn about martial arts and grappling in general, you're the guy to go to. Now, what I want to say is we met in an interesting way. I don't know if you want to recap the story or.
No, you could do it. I think you might tell it better. But
Well, pretty much I had moved into. Matt owned a place in New York. I pretty much moved in right next door to Matt. And you were, what was it? Were you training in the garage? Is that how? And I was like, oh, do you do martial arts?
yeah, for sure. And my neighbor actually told me that there's this guy who's just like you, Matt. He's just like you. You got to go check him out.
Yeah.
And and yeah, I was training in the garage, and yeah, you stopped by, and it's kind of history, I guess, from there.
And then we became martial arts BFFs. And it's
Yeah.
super cool living next to someone who loves martial arts as you do. And you had a different style because I was doing more Brazilian jiu-jitsu, so more on the ground, and you were doing Shuai Jiao and more stand-up. So we kind of complemented each other very well.
For sure.
And what I loved about you was you had such an open mind that you would come and train with the jits guys, you would come and train with the sambo guys that I was training with, and you would compete with them, you would spar against them, you would whoop a lot of people's butts. And by the way, this is still a video of Matt here demonstrating and in some of these motions here. And why don't you give us a quick history about Shuai Jiao, how you got into it, and then why don't we just jump into, like, I always like talking about the pros and cons. And this is, I just want to say, this is one of the most underrated grappling systems in the world today, in my opinion. And it's just overlooked by so many. I only know that because of what I've seen you do, even to high level grapplers. So, yeah, I'll let you take over now.
Yeah. So like every kid, I loved watching kung fu movies and karate movies and whatnot. And my friends and I would watch really bad, and this is like before YouTube, which is, I guess, dating me now. But we'd watch some really bad, practice videos. I remember following like a Dolph Lundgren workout video, like, whatever we could find basically. And my friends told me that there was this class in Fresh Meadows, which is where I live in Queens. And they're like, you got to go check this out. And I go there with my friends, and I see this 5 foot and 5'1" skinny guy, Chinese guy, who was just throwing everybody. And I was like, oh, what's going on? Some throw a 200-pound guy. I'm like, that's pretty impressive. So I stayed there and I watched, and I was like, that's really what I want to do. And I would say that I really hadn't stuck with any particular thing. Like, I did some sports growing up, but I wasn't incredibly athletic at that point. and I just really wanted to do that. I felt like that was my calling. Mind you, in the class it was both Northern Shaolin Long Fist and Shuai Jiao. So it was like I did forms for 2 hours. It was a 4 hour class, so forms for 2 hours, and then another 2 hours of throwing and sparring and stuff like that. So and then I just stuck with it. I I mean, I was very fortunate. I had a couple of classmates. My classmate Frank Gomez was like back and forth with me quite a bit, so we basically trained off each other with Tony Yin and some of my other classmates. We've had Sifa Gabrielle who came in and helped teach us, which we can always see another day. I'm sorry about that. We're just
Unforgivable,
gonna.
Matt.
I know.
People are dropping out like flies right now.
I know. I'm sure. I'm
So
sure.
that 2 second glitch.
Sorry. But yeah, so like, inevitably, over, I started competing. Like Sifu Chen had gotten us in and started competing immediately. So I would compete. I'd say I didn't do as well in Shuai Jiao that I did in like forms, but I really just kept doing it. And then over time, we just kept practicing over and over and over again. And over time, I got to meet my grandmaster, who really kind of like helped me clarify some stuff. I got to live in Taiwan for a little while, which actually I trained more long fists than I did Shuai Jiao there, but I did meet David Chang and a bunch of other people, and it was an eye-opening experience. I got to train 6 to 8 hours a day, so it taught me really with body mechanics and whatnot. And and then you actually opened up my eyes quite a bit. Like you say that we started doing jiu-jitsu and sambo and stuff. Yeah, before that, like I'd gone to some classes, but I didn't think I actually had as open a mind as I did once I started training with you, because that was like the heyday where jujitsu was like BJJ was just like it was on the fence, like, oh, you practice that, I'm not going to do that stuff, no, that doesn't work, and you were like, no, Matt, it works. I was like, all right, let's do it, so between
Yes.
that and some of the Kali Eskrima stuff that you did, and I mean, even your Penjak Salat and all that other stuff, it's like, it was great, because you're right, we did complement each other, and I got to learn a lot just from you, and then you drag me to places and we go different places and we go train. That was awesome. So I continued that, like, and I would go to judo. I've been to like we used to we used to go to a few different classes. We'd be called the fake white belts, because me and a couple
Mhm.
of my classmates would go, and because we'd go and we were wearing white belts, but we compete and we fight against the black belts, and
Yeah.
we would do well, and it was always fun, always back and forth. But I'd say even now, like I think I rank as like a blue belt in judo, but meanwhile I've been doing martial arts for over 30 years and competed in so many different places. Um,
Yeah, but
so
you're
yeah,
not, you know what I mean? You're not a blue belt in judo.
no, I
You're
mean,
an amazing, but that's the thing. I could go to a judo class and I'm a white belt,
right,
but I will be arm barring people and choking people who are black belts for sure, because they just haven't. I've spent 24 years grappling.
right,
Or
yeah,
you take a Division One wrestler and put him against me, and he's going to slam me on my head. Maybe I'll choke him on the ground, but he's going to out grapple me on the feet,
sure.
100%.
No,
Um,
for sure. And to that point, like when it comes to judo and judo throws, I mean, I know pretty much all the throws in judo. I might not remember all the names as much, but I know the throws. I mean, Swaja has so many different techniques that, I mean, look, wrestling is wrestling, right? So we argue that the throws in Shuai Jiao aren't that much different than others. Like hip throws, shoulder throws. So it becomes like the nuances about how to do those techniques more than it is anything else. So and then there's some very like call it, I don't want to even say sports specific, but art specific to Shuai Jiao that you really don't see in other arts. Um, some involve jackets, some don't involve jackets. So it really is just what my new mentality has become. It doesn't really matter what kind of jacket you're wearing, no jacket. It's just just learn how to do it. That's why I love doing the nogi stuff, because it really teaches you how to control somebody's body.
yeah,
With the uniform you can get away with a lot of things, or you can do some pulls that you really could never pull off in a street fight or otherwise. And when you're practicing nogi, it's a whole nother world, and you're
yeah,
also
you
using
really
this
got
a
to
lot.
focus on your overhooks, your underhooks, your neckties. Why don't I put on some? Here we go. I'm going to put it on some actual Shuai Jiao competition. Why don't you tell us what's unique a little bit about Shuai Jiao? Because you said there are some sports specific things. I felt them from you.
Sure.
I'm just going to say this. Something I noticed about Shuai Jiao is it felt more direct than a
Hmm.
lot of other grappling systems. And I don't know if that's an accurate kind of statement, but I'll let you talk about it. I've just always felt like when you go for the throw, you go for it. You commit to it. And usually it's kind of like we're gonna get this throw. And I've seen you transition into other setups and everything like that, but it just felt a little bit more, like they'll really go for it. But I don't know if you want to give us a little bit about the history, and then because this competition right here is pretty sick.
Sure.
And then maybe a little bit about what makes it unique compared to other grappling styles.
No, for sure. So my grandmaster, he used to tell us that the moment you touch, you throw, right? So the idea is that conceptually you grab someone and you take them down, right? And if you can't take them down one way, you transition to another thing, transition to another thing, just like chess, right? For us, that's a mentality. It's transitioning from one technique to the other technique to the other technique. Um, and you know, there's nothing wrong with trying one technique over and again, but forcing a throw won't really go very far. Like if you're looking at the guys who are doing, there's like, I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to switch over to this. I'm going to keep pulling you to this. But yeah, it's like a constant direction. Like I want to keep moving you and getting you till I get you down. I'm not going to try to do a shoulder throw, pop out, do another shoulder throw, pop out, do another shoulder throw. But I'm either committing to that 100%, or as I commit that to 100%, you change up, and then I have to change up my technique.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Where did Shuai Jiao come from?
Well, it's a very mixed bag of a conversation, but
Oh no, I opened the door of politics in martial arts. Big surprise. Why is everything? Yeah.
So there's the official line, right? The official line is it came from the first dynasty in China. So 5,000 years ago, there were two warring states. There was the Huangdi and Qiao, and so these two are like the two warring factions. These two are like the heads of the warring factions. And there's a note about something called Jiao Di, which is like they call it horn butting. Now, a lot of people seem to connote the idea of horn butting meaning two guys were actually trying to you know, like butt each other with horned helmets, which is just completely asinine. But people do think that, and God bless them if they want to, if that's what they want to believe. But if you look at two people wrestling together, what does it look like? Look like, horns.
Mm-hmm.
So these are like the horns of the helmet you're grabbing. You see two guys lock up, and that's traditionally basically what happens. So it's kind of, let's say, it started as a wrestling concept, two people going at it, wrestling themselves to the ground. Later, it became something called Jiao Li. Became more of and I say loosely, and I say very loosely, codified into something that was more for the military. So you'd have like Chinese military who practice this, and they're incorporated striking, but there is striking in Shuai Jiao, but it's not the way that people think of like boxing, and it's very very far different. Every strike is a grab. Every kick is a sweep. So like when you see somebody doing like a sweep, they're kicking the hell out of that leg. Or when they're grabbing somebody, I'm not just grabbing like this. I'm trying to grab the whole body. I'm trying to grab the skin. I'm trying to grab whatever I can to really just make the person move, right? So that's the main difference I would say on that side. But the later it got you might just consider it like the art of the nomad, right? Because traditionally the higher ups, you wouldn't really have officers as doing Shuai Jiao. You normally have like the peasants doing the Shuai Jiao, and they were also the travelers. So the different people in different towns would have different wrestling styles. So you can see that actually across the entire Silk Road, you'll see that there's different wrestling styles, and all these people would travel and they would wrestle. It's like a pastime, right? But later, the emperor's bodyguard would train in Shuai Jiao. Like there were Shuai Jiao competitions in order to be able to become an emperor's bodyguard.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah. So and then they were taught something called Shampuying, which is like the elite brigade style. So it's more like we'll call it like the incredibly fast and mutilating takedowns. Something that's not like just big throws. It's like quick arm breaks and pulls. So similar, I guess, to Aikido Jiu-Jitsu. And I could thank my friend, my classmate Harry Fontanez, he's like incredibly deep into Aikido Jiu-Jitsu, and he actually was he taught me more about joint locking and execution of throw than I ever learned with almost anybody else, next to Siva Gabriel, who taught us a lot of that from Praying Mantis. But the idea is that in Shuai Jiao you have different elements where you've got joint locking and execution of a throw, striking and execution of a throw, but once again, it's in execution. So I'm not going to do like Aikido style twists, turns, and movements. It's more like you grab me, I'm gonna pull that finger and move your body and drag your body down with that hand.
Yeah. Well,
You
that
know,
is unique. That is very unique to Shuai Jiao. And I do remember when you grabbed me, even whether you were conscious of it or not, a lot of the time you would just have such a deep grab. I don't know how to explain it. Like I've grappled with a lot of judo guys. Obviously, I've grappled with a million Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys. I've grappled with wrestlers. What they maybe wrestlers do this because of no gi. You feel them on the skin, like they have a
right?
grip on the skin. Judo guys a lot of the time, and jiu-jitsu guys. But you had kind of like an in between. Like when you grabbed me, it got the clothes and it got the skin, and it was like a pinch. Like you were throwing me from my skin, even if you were, you know what I mean? Like you'd sometimes grab my
Sorry.
tricep. No, but you had such a good grip. Like you'd sometimes grab my tricep. I don't know if you remember this. There was a like you would actually cause pain in my tricep from the grip on the skin on
Sure.
my tricep. And it's because you guys use this. You would always grab high because of the sleeve.
Short sleeve, yeah.
Yeah, so you were used to like grabbing a bicep or grab it. Almost it seems like Shuai Jiao is very good for a transition to no gi because
Yeah.
of that, because it doesn't have a long sleeve uniform. It has a short sleeve uniform. And I think training with a belt is not something that's appreciated enough. I do like belts. I think they're an interesting tool because a lot of time people do have pants on or whatever it is, that the grip of the pants can function almost like a belt. You could
Sure.
still elevate someone from their pants. So hopefully you're not fighting naked people.
Not anymore. No.
Yeah.
No, but
Those days are long gone, man.
yeah, I know. But yeah, no, I mean, look, the for to your point about grabbing skin and controlling with the body, yeah, I mean, that's one thing our grandmaster used to do. He used to literally just like walk up next to us and grab and say, "Oh, let's go this way." You know, he would just grab and pull you because it didn't matter. He'd grab you by by your underside, grab you from your back. You know, if you're more heavy set, it sucks more. You know,
Yeah.
you know. But the whole idea is it's like you grab and twist and move because you want to get that pain reaction. You know, you want to get the oh my god, what's happening. So even and to your point about the grip, unlike let's say more like a pluck that you see in judo where you see like see like
Mhm.
like a lighter grab.
Yeah. Or this
Saijo,
is like a jits thing. Yeah. It's how you
right,
hook the gi. Yeah.
right. In Shuai you keep your fingers a little bit bent and you push into the body first, and then you grab it in. So it's more of a, to your point, you grab skin, you grab hair, you grab whatever you can, or it's just the gi. But it's also because in Shuai Jiao, the gi is really tight. You know, in judo, you have this extra flexibility. So if you're really trying to you're trying to throw with the gi, you have to you don't really have to loosen it up so much. It's already kind of hanging out, which is why you see a lot of players kind of pull back. You know, when they're fighting, they'll pull
Hmm.
back in because they don't want you to grab the gi here, and they're going to try to play you against this until they can grab and do whatever they're going to do. But in Shuai, this is very tough to grab. I mean, we have a lot of ways of opening up the jacket so you can grab, but it's very tight. The whole thing. I mean, similarly to judo, the new rules are 4 fingers between for the sleeves, but most people don't. I mean, there is in international competition, there's regulation, and there is some in domestic, but it's not as looked on the same way as international. International, they're very, very strict on the 4 finger rule, so that way you'd have 4 fingers in the sleeve you can grab in. Um, I mean, I love playing with long jackets. It's great. I mean, there's so many things you can manipulate with, and so many different ways of manipulating the body. It's fantastic. But you're right. The shorter sleeve does give you a little bit more body connection.
Body
You know, I mean,
connection and reality based training, I'd say.
right.
I would say the long gi loose does not represent 90% of interactions you will have in a real life situation.
Sure.
Um,
Which is also why, like, when I was initially trying to transition into judo and whatnot, it was very foreign. No gi was much easier for me than switching into judo for that exact reason. Because if you try to lift, I mean, just so you get an idea, like when you're grabbing the inside of the sleeve, you're actually trying to control the elbow. So I'm trying to lift the elbow up or pull the elbow down, but I can do the same thing grabbing here and pushing up. So as long as I have an offset, I can have a collar tie, and then I can be hooked into the arm in this way, or I can end up pushing the arm and twisting the body this way. There's a lot of flexibility um, that you can do with or without the uniform.
can you see the videos I'm playing when I play this right now? Can you see this coming up?
Yeah, for sure.
You had sent me this video. This is
Yeah, yeah.
David Lynn's student.
Yeah, see, that's C for Omar Harvey, and that's my friend Lavelle Sheldon Marshall, his teacher. I've known Sifa Omar for quite a long time. Good guy, and learned from Master David Lin Shikai, who is one of the students of great Grandmaster Chang Dongsheng. And they focus predominantly on the strike and the combat aspect more so than competition, even though his guys would go into competition and clean house because they were they were very tough, you
Can
know.
you sorry, can you talk about the difference between combat and sport in this style? Because,
Sure.
like, first of all, I want to talk about this later. Also, there's so much to talk about. I think we go another 10 minutes, but
No
um,
worries.
the training methodology I find in Shuai Jiao is super unique compared to other grappling styles. Like, there's a lot of stuff with belts, with weights. I have, I think, a couple more videos here. I'll play them that you sent me. But it does have one of the most unique solo training systems for grappling that I have seen. I haven't seen this in any other grappling system.
For sure, yeah. So I mean, there's Uh, so you got different tools. My favorite is belt cracking, which is just literally using a belt, folding either three or two ways, and that's snapping a belt. And it sounds like it'd be super easy, but it's far from it.
Hmm.
Um, yep. Yeah. So like, and there's different versions of that belt cracking at that. Um, so there's two different competing methods of Shuai, so to speak. I mean, let's say 50 years ago, there would have been more. But now, right now, there's the method that's being taught predominantly from the students of Chang Dongsheng, who was like the great famous grandmaster who went from China and went to Taiwan and taught all the people in Taiwan. And subsequently, most of their students went to America and Europe and whatnot. And then you have more of we'll call it Beijing style, but it's really more of a conglomerate Hebei region style, where it was like everything was kind of combined into the style, and you'll see like dynamic training more than in the Baoding Taiwan version, so to speak. Um, all the tools you've got, I mean, they're done different ways, but effectively you've got bricks, you've got these big stone blocks, like you're looking like that. There's also handheld stone blocks. You've got these long poles, you've got short dowels, and each one is the idea is to kind of create your body, or shape your body and to be able to do certain throws. Kind of training your body in that conditioning. And so, you don't do it a few times. When you do it with force, and you try to make sure your technique is obviously proper because you're effectively trying to train to throw somebody. And just like most other Chinese martial arts, there are plenty of forms and like different drills. So unlike long drawn out forms, there's one movement or a short range of motions like you're looking at, um, which is a far cry. Like if you're looking at like Mongolian wrestling and Volk and whatnot, they don't. A lot of the Mongolians actually do some of these drills. Um, you can argue a lot of the throws came from Mongolia as well. So, but the Chinese kind of honed in the drill concept in order to be able to develop the body if you don't have a partner. So, and especially it's never easy to find a partner. So you want to be able to train your body to be able to hack it. So like that is like the long pole at the weight. It's teaching you how to do like you know, a series of different a series of different techniques that'll lift you up with the legs, right? And like there you have you have long ropes. Bell cracking can be done with ropes as well, and chains as well. I've seen people use magnesium chains to make sparks as they do it, and it's all, I mean, that's all cute. But I also heard about somebody chopping their finger off doing it. So anyway, so,
Whoa.
yeah,
But
so
I
so you gotta
mean,
be careful.
but it's crazy to me that these, like, I really want to do some of these solo drills after watching them,
Hmm.
and it's crazy to me that you just don't find them in other systems. Like, you just
Sure.
don't find these tools in these, maybe Mongolian wrestling, like you said. I don't know. I haven't experienced that directly, but um, you definitely don't see it in judo, jujitsu, wrestling. Like, the uniqueness of, like, yeah, you see rope training, you see whipping, you see all that stuff, but not in the same way that I've seen. And you have dummy training where you throw the dummies now, but you don't have like the kind of solo drills that I've seen here. And the movements, they are unique. They are
For sure.
especially unique.
No, for sure. I mean, I'm really thankful because my friend, my classmate Mario Polito, he actually dragged me over to a Beijing Shuai Jiao school that was in Queens, that was in Flushing, Um, and you know, it was very like it was mind opening for me because the bounding style is very static. You see these movements that are short, like walking drills, but like what you're looking at right now, it's it's these dynamic flows, right? So, but it's not they're not too many movements. It's like step, go, step,
Hmm.
go. And so with that, that's like it's teaching your body how to move. Where the Baoding style, you're kind of learning how to kind of create your muscle groups so that you can withstand the punishment that you're going to take by throwing and getting thrown. Um, but the like the Beijing style, it's more of dynamic and teaching you actually how to do the throw and how to escape.
Like he's doing here, obviously, he's avoiding the trip and then going into his own trip.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, there's something I like to do, and I just want to ask you, like in terms of self defense,
Hmm.
what are your thoughts on Shuai Jiao? Obviously, I think it's incredibly effective for self defense. I think it offers a completely unique skill set. I also think it's one of the few grappling styles that, whether people realize it or not, is kind of teaching you to come in a striking manner. Like you said, it's highly aggressive in its
Hmm.
approach to throwing, which I think is more effective for street self defense than a lot of the other things you see.
Sure.
Because of that, they move your body when they grab you. They're hitting you with the grab essentially.
Hmm.
So for me, it's totally underrated, and you just don't. I don't know why it's not more popular in the West.
Sure.
But I want to hear your thoughts. You're the expert, and then we'll do some final thoughts on the system.
Fantastic. Yeah. Look. I mean, we learned. My grandmaster was assistant head of the police college in Taiwan for over 25 years, right? So the focus that he was trying to present was yes, the basic system of throwing, but also how to take someone down quickly. And so he incorporated police tactics in with that. And so that's the way I learned. And I learned how, like it wasn't just to take someone by the jacket and pull them up. It was to just take them down as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Um, Part of something that we've been doing is incorporating more with striking and some, let's say, more elegant joint locks. But as a system, as a system as Shuai Jiao itself, um, to the point of fast hands, the idea is to try to take you down quickly. So, you know, you need to have hands, and our grandmaster would say the same thing. You need to learn how to properly enter with your opponent. I mean, if someone's a really good boxer, they can keep you out, and you can keep getting punched in the face. And I know this happened to me. You know, you're like, you can't get in, you can't throw. So you need to work. You need to work on avoidance and trapping and doing everything that you need to with any martial art. But once you get to that position, Shuai Jiao has very quick takedowns from any angle, right? So the way we learned it, it wasn't just like I'm going to go for this one throw. It's what's open.
Hmm.
So if you're leaning back on one side, or if I push you and you're kind of going that way, I'm coercing you into that side, right? So I'm going to take you into that end, and if you change up, I'm going to take you down that way because just same thing. Like if you're trying to do a double leg as an example, and your head's between his arm, and he starts getting you a choke, and then someone pulls back, and it's just and then you're in a guillotine. You didn't try to be there, but that's what happened. So we don't want to ever be in those positions. So it's more like a constant pressure that we want to give you. So we want to make you scared, right? When we grab you, when we're moving you, we want to scare the hell out of you because the more you're on the defensive, the easier it is for me to accomplish something.
Yeah,
Whether you're
I
pushing
like
back
that
or you mean,
philosophy.
so when it comes from a self-defense standpoint, I mean, we learned a lot of self-defense concepts. Um, I mean, I would say that we've developed more of them now. But as just a basic, we'll call it like a throwing grappling system, there's plenty of ways of manipulating your opponent to get out of things. I mean, I've done self-defense seminars where people are like, oh wow, I didn't realize you could do that. I'm like, well, you can, and this is why. And people think it's not about strength. I mean, some things are. I would say like there's certain techniques you absolutely do not want to do, and to someone who's taller, who's wider, or shorter, and skinnier, like there's different techniques for different situations. Not There's not a one size fit all. So you can learn like we learned 80, 90 different groups of throws, so to speak. Um, but not all of them are applicable for everyone that you fight. Like I can very well tell you,
Mhm.
I'm not going to grab someone who's taller than me up. I'm not going for their neck. It makes no sense. I'd rather go for either arms or waist. or legs, but I also don't want to get below because, as my friend George one time did, he pancaked me. I learned that a Division 1 wrestler is very easy to
Yeah, if you
to
go low
flatten
on
you
a
out.
Division 1 wrestler, they're going to sprawl you out and they're
Right,
going to flatten
exactly.
you.
Right.
Um, no, but I love what you're saying because I think that it's good you develop your own game, but you develop your own game to also be able to fight people of all shapes and sizes. You can't just rely on. It's a big mistake that a lot of fighters make, even pro fighters. They get comfortable with one thing. Like
Mhm.
if Tyson's problems, he developed a game for bigger fighters because
Right.
everyone was taller than him. But if he had to fight a bunch of shorter guys who were forward pressure guys, much like he fought, he would have a hard time because his style wasn't developed for that. He perfected his
Mm.
style for his environment. Are
Right.
you frozen, Matt?
No, no,
Oh,
I'm
you're
here.
back.
Hey. No.
Hey!
No, for sure. And look, because I've always been on the heavier side. So like I've always been, even when I was at 185 pounds fighting, I was still fighting guys that looked like giants to me. And then I was starting to fight at 200 and at 220. And then I was fighting even in absolute divisions, depending like I've fought in Kyrgyzstan in a belt wrestling competition against a 300-pound Mongolian man who was a very strong boy.
Did
He
he
took me
launch you?
around. Yes, very much so. There's something on my Instagram. You can find it. It's pretty phenomenal. I should have sent you that one because I still remember that. I I think I still have PTSD about that. But no, but like there's certain things you just can't do. Now belt wrestling is very different. You're locked in. If someone's got longer arms, they're pushing you out. You don't have a chance. But in what we do, it's a little different. You can play. We just can't play the same game. I'm not going to try to jump up high to somebody who's towering over me and say, "Let me get your
Mhm.
neck." It's like I might hit you in the hip to knock you down so I can grab your neck, but you still have more of a chance of getting up and getting out. Where I actually have been my difficulty has actually normally been fighting my height or shorter because I don't fight that much. The
Yeah,
people
you're
that are
not
my
used
height.
to it. You're used to
Right.
being the smaller, thicker guy.
Right. So I've been
Um,
training my students to do that. So it's like, understanding that disparity and the different ways of controlling your opponent depending on their size.
okay. Yeah. Well, I would say just off knowing you and having the exchanges I've had with you that Shuai Jiao is like I said, it's one of the most underrated throwing systems. I would say the only con, like you had mentioned, I would say one thing, it doesn't focus so much obviously on the ground. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a great supplemental system. I think it would be
100%.
yeah. So it's part of the equation, but I don't know why I'm turning orange. Have you seen this? The lighting has gotten very weird this time. Maybe because for some reason when I double up with people, it changes the color
You're,
whatever on
you're,
my.
you're glowing, Elon. What can I tell you? You're
I
glowing.
see you and I'm hot.
That's it. That's
I'm on
it.
fire, man. What's your OnlyFans?
Yeah, fantastic. No,
Um,
but to that point, I mean, we do have escapes, like ground escapes, but there's not like a huge ground game. I mean, like I said, I thank you for that because it really opened my mind. We would do standing joint locks, but
yeah.
standing joint locks are really just transitionary locks. You're going to stand. If you're going to stand, you're still going to go to the ground unless you're going to break quickly, punch them in the face, and run. Because ideally, unless you're a police officer or military, you're not trying to kill them, right? You're trying to
Yeah.
put somebody down and get away. Um, you know, and and so, inevitably, like, for police, you want to put them down in a way that you can lock them and you don't want to be on the ground. So if you have cuffs, you can lock them, get them and then,
Up home and then yeah.
and cuff them. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind
And
of what you're
not do a George Floyd
correct,
situation.
right. Right. So the whole idea is, to control your opponent, which we very much believe that military and police should practice this because it does very much complement pretty much every style. And yeah, it's not. We argue like some people say it's a complete style. It is a complete style in its way, but it's not. It's missing something. So good to learn, groundwork with BJJ. The flow of motion I call BJJ because that's what it is. It's groundwork squared. Like the idea of being able to shift and move and kind of just spider around your opponent to be able to control them is something it's an art unto itself. It's not really about the locks as much as the movements to do those positions, right? So and Shuai Jiao is kind of like the standing version of that. The
Yeah.
throws are there, but you there's a throw for every angle. There's a throw for every size. You know, you don't have to know 100 throws in order to be able to throw somebody. But you typically, in my mind, you always need like 3 to 4, one in every direction. And then conversely, if you don't have at least another 4 throws for someone who's bigger versus smaller, sometimes you can cheat, but it's normally like it's like a grabbing difference. I might grab you at the waist, I might grab you on top. Like our grandmaster was really big on that. It was like controlling the lower body, so waist, and controlling the upper body, and then the head was its own kind of category. So that's where he viewed the throwing techniques as a whole. He would break them down in his mind between the three different ways that you can take somebody down. But
That's super
inevitably,
cool.
yeah. So it's like upper body control, lower body control. Consider it that more than head, because head is it's more of a smaller subsect. But upper body control, lower body control is everything. So like I like fighting over like over your arm and under and under your not it's not really an over under, like it's not like a straight like I'm not doing one of these. I'm more like cupping in, grabbing the tricep like we talked about,
Hmm.
and going more towards the waist, but I don't have to grab the waist. I'm pressuring on the back or on the sides, and I'm grabbing into the lat, right? And if I'm on top, I'm anchoring in the arm over here, and I'm hooking beyond the neck, just like you would in judo. Like if you're gonna try to do any kind of chokes, you go past the collar line. I don't want to start here and try to choke here. I'm gonna go all the way around, and then I'm gonna manipulate. So I'm gonna use the side of my hand and kind of pull it out that way, and that's different ways of controlling. But it's those two concepts will pretty much give you the types of throws you can accomplish depending on the level of control you have.
Okay. Well, I mean, this was very informative.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So where do people find your stuff if they wanna follow you?
Sure. We have shuaijiaoevolution.com. We have wrestling-evolution.com. I'm on Instagram at wrestling. I think it's at wrestling evolution gym. You find us a couple different places. Look up Matt Gelfand, Shuai Jiao. I'm sure you can find me as
Yeah.
easily as that as well. I've been around long enough. I think at this point I have enough Google searches. We we spent a long time trying to do that to give a little more a little more visuals to the especially the local community, because it's always hard to obviously get out there, so we want people to know, and I'm going to start doing seminars as well the way we used to try to get a little more awareness to the art.
Yeah, because it's hard to find in the United States. It's not like you can, you know, just find a Shuai Jiao school anywhere or in Europe. I mean, it's very, very hard to find.
Right.
Um, so it's good that you're spreading it and keeping it alive and going.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's a love of mine, and 30 years and counting, or 29 years and counting. So it's yeah, obviously you think you
Oh,
like
snap. All
But
right, man.
I'm very thankful, and I really appreciate you having me on, and it's always great to see you.
You too, man. I appreciate it too. And I really want to pick up those solo drills just as something I can do just to kind of make my body stronger in those areas. So I mean, anyone who's watching this, I hope they picked up a lot of the stuff you were talking about, like the way to grab, the way to throw, the division of the upper body, lower body, the solo training drills, all that stuff. I think it's all great. And
Yeah.
listen, if you're watching this and you don't like and subscribe, I'm sending Matt after you. He's gonna launch you on your head, push you into the
I have friends.
yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching.